Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics, Less Known Classics. This episode was 1692 and Doubleshot number 1586. I have two Marvel trades for you, both of them featuring a lot of characters who were created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. First up it is Loki. Yes, this very brief series that lasted for 4 issues. Came out roughly almost 6 years ago. Yes, this also was the first Loki book published in a year. Yes, ever since the cancellation of the Loki Age of Asgard series, which I still think that series was really good. I do not know why the series didn't continue after Secret Wars. As far as I can tell, it's one of those series I'm like, why would you end this really good series and not do much with Loki afterwards? Yes. Now, of course, Loki appears in the series is not, even though this is Loki, a character who was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, this version of Loki is not the original Loki, the one that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created. That guy's been dead for 11 years, about 12 years now, thanks to Siege. At this time, he's been dead for 6 years. This actually is, this is a younger version of Loki, who operates in modern day. He's still acknowledged as the brother of Thor and of course, Angela, who does pop up in this series. So apparently the premise of this series is that Loki is running for president in 2016. You're probably thinking, okay, who ran for president in 2016? Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump won the election, despite what some people might say about that election. Yeah, so Marvel's like, hey, why don't we throw Loki in the race in the fictional world? There's no mention of Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton here at all. Nope, he just ran and, like the substance was revealed about him, he lost. At one point, he actually had an assistant who actually does not appear after this book for some reason. Also, Valerie, the supporting character from his previous ongoing series, does not appear here at all. Nope, she doesn't. I don't really know why. It's by far a baffling thing. I mean, she could, they could have basically said, oh yeah, she was revived thanks to Secret Wars. Nope, we had to wait another 3 years to reveal the fact she's still around, popping up in, I think it was, first she popped up in, I think it was Jane Foster Valkyrie for a couple issues, and then she popped up for the final 2 issues of Loki. The very brief ongoing series that was Loki. I still don't know why that book was canceled. I mean, in the case of this book, when this book came out, there was nothing that this series was a limited series, just abruptly ended after only 4 issues. Yes, as far as I can tell, I do not know the reason for this though. Oh, you might be asking, who's the writer of this book? Christopher Hastings, the writer of Gwenpool. Yep, same guy. He writes this one. I like the guy's writing. I know some people think that the Gwenpool book basically should have ended, it shouldn't continue for 25 issues. I mean, I thought it was a pretty decent book. Yes. And despite what you see in the back cover, where you see Sam Willis and Captain America here, he actually does not appear in the book at all. Angela does. Oh, yeah. Why is she here? She's Loki's bodyguard. And you're probably thinking, why would Loki need a bodyguard for? He's the god of lies. Well, he's the god of mischief anyways. He's a god. Why would he need a bodyguard for? Because he's a politician. He needs a bodyguard, so he hires his own sister to be a bodyguard, which is not a bad idea to do. And I think this came, I think this was just after Angela's very brief ongoing series got canceled. We also have brief appearances by Jane Foster Thor. She briefly appears in here too. Yep. In the end, Loki loses, and this series is actually was mentioned. The events of the series actually mentioned in the Loki book that came out a few years later. But yeah, this was the second ever series for Loki set in the regular modern day. That's not like an alternate continuity like the first 2 volumes of Loki were. But this book is actually really good. I give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Yes. Now, the artwork in here is done by London Frost and Paul McAfee, who does issue 2. Mostly it's London Frost that does issues. The artwork is okay at best. It's not terrible artwork. I'm sure some people might be hating on this artwork. Me personally, I think it's okay. It's not terrible. Trust me, I've seen worse artwork than that. Alright, moving on to, let me move this over here. Alright, moving on to a digital book, we have Road to Civil War. Yes. By the way, this is not from the Apollo app. This is actually from the Overdrive app. Okay, now for this book did contain the New Avengers Illuminati one-shot. Sorry about that. New Avengers Illuminati one-shot, along with Fantastic Four 536, 537, and Amazing Spider-Man 529 and 531. I'm not going to be discussing the Amazing Spider-Man because I've already discussed this already, so I'm not going to discuss them. In the case of the New Avengers Illuminati one-shot, this one, first half of this book basically details the formation of the Illuminati, which those of you who forgot the original Illuminati's lineup, it was Professor Charles Xavier representing the mutants. We have Black Bolt, Iron Man, Namor, Doctor Strange, and Mr. Fantastic. Yep. And the first half, and basically, T'Challa was offered membership of this group, but he declined because he did not like working behind people's backs. Though this would be contradicted about a decade later when Jonathan Hickman decided to add part of his lineup in Illuminati for New Avengers Volume 3. Yeah, that would completely contradict me. And this is written by Brian Michael Bendis, who wrote this one shot. Yes. Now, the Illuminati were first introduced in the second story arc of Bendis' run for New Avengers, and this book pretty much explains their backstory. Basically, in a way, this group was formed after the events of the Kree-Skrull War. The original story that came back in the 70s, the classic story done by Roy Thomas. Now, they all agreed to work together with exception to T'Challa, and in the second half of the book, which, by the way, Xavier is not at this meeting. They have two meetings, but first the formation of the group, and the second half, of course, the formation of the group, and of course, deal with the Kree and the Skrulls. The second half of the book is basically focused on, 1 month later, where they mention the events of what happened, that just happened, just prior to this, in the pages Fantastic Four, where the Hulk went on rampage in Las Vegas. So they all voted, with the exception of Xavier, all voted. It was basically like 4-1. Yeah, it was like 4-1 because Namor was actually the only one against voting. Basically, what was the vote was. Basically, the second half of this one shot, you could definitely say this one shot basically set up the events of Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. Yes, because they all voted to send the Hulk into space. Yep, that was basically the reason for this meeting. Namor, who was another friend of the Hulk's, said no. He voted no, and it seems strange, though, that Doctor Strange voted yes, despite the fact these two, along with Namor, and Silver Surfer, were family members of Defenders. Apparently, Bendis decided to have Reddit where Hulk was more closer with Namor than he was Doctor Strange. Okay, that's perfectly fine. You can definitely see that. Anyway, I'm thinking, okay, what about Hulk's relationship with Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic? He's close with Iron Man. Like, there's no mention of these two being friends with Reed Richards. Black Bolt, well, though the Bendis later retconned that this Black Bolt, this meeting, was not the actual Black Bolt, but actually a Skrull. Yes, this was retconned 2 years later when they had actually it was like a year later when they had the events of World War Hulk happen, when actually was revealed when they revealed the whole thing with Skrulls, that the Black Bolt who had been operating since that meeting has been in fact a Skrull. Now you're probably asking, why was Xavier at the second meeting? Well, he was absent due to the events of Dissemination, the aftermath of House of M. That was mainly the reason why he was absent. Yes, a very interesting one-shot. Now, in the case of Fantastic Four issues, these ones are quite unique. It's mostly a follow-up to issue 500, where basically we have this strange object coming into orbit of the planet. Yeah, coming into orbit and landing. And by the way, this story is called Hammer Falls. We have basically Reed eating a sandwich, trying to eat a sandwich while Susan and I talk to him. And some of the events Illuminati playing here a little bit too. And then apparently the area where this hammer landed. Now, by the way, this looks very familiar. Like, if you saw the Thor movie, you would think, wow, that looks familiar. That looks like the same exact facility used in the Thor movie. Probably because they're based upon this. Because, well, there's a reason for it. You have a bunch of Doombots show up, you're thinking, what the heck is going on here? Like, why are these Doombots here? What's with the object fell for this guy? Well, it turns out Doctor Doom is out of hell. Yep. And he actually brought with him Thor's hammer. Yes, Thor's hammer. By the way, this came out in 2006. Roughly almost 2 years after Thor's apparent death at the end of Thor Volume 2, issue 85. Yes. Now this Doctor, and of course they do mention Doctor was back in the Jack Kirby attire, which, yeah, I appreciate that. Now, here is basically what he looked like. Let's see if we can get a look at him. Right here. This is the look he had in Fantastic Four 500. Yeah, they mentioned here that, well, Fantastic Four sent him to hell. Literally hell, and then, of course, he came out. Basically, he fought a bunch of demons. They kind of explained how he escaped, where he got out. Basically, thanks to Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. And ends up back alive area where apparently it's run by a Prime Minister. He ends up basically, like, strangling him and killing him. And of course his subordinate's like, he says, I require a bath. Also, the Prime Minister. The latter can wait, the former cannot. Your Eminence. Of course, Your Eminence. Also, something into Earth's atmosphere 10 nights ago. 10 nights took me to restore my strength and return here. Return to here, interrupt your festivities. I want located. And we talk about Thor's hammer. Yep, Thor's hammer. And then we have basically we have things saying, because it's hammer time, which probably playing the fact he says, well, clobbering time. Beats the crap out of it, and of course they have Thor, and they have Doctor trying to pick up Thor's hammer, and Thing trying to pick up Thor's hammer, but nope, no one succeeds. And then we see this mysterious person ticket to someplace. Who is a mysterious person? Well, it was later revealed in Civil War Frontline, in the final issue of the book, but one of the plot threads of that book was basically people trying to pick up Thor's hammer. It turns out this was actually Donald Blake who came back. Yes, Donald Blake. And this basically, this ending here, set it up. Basically, you can kind of see this sets up the revive. Basically, it basically plants seeds for Thor Volume 3, which was launched like the following year after this. I gotta say, the two-parter Hammer Falls was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. I give the book roughly, well, the Amazing Experiment issues is mostly like Peter Parker going to Washington. Of course, that basically goes more with World of Civil War 1. This does. Mostly, you can kind of say this two-parter, it's just basically a backdoor pilot into the Civil War Frontline book as one of its plot threads. Yep. That's mostly put what it is. Yep. I'm going to give this book a 10 out of 10. Just a really damn good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The Amazing Experiment issues were actually pretty good too. Having Spider-Man fight Titanium, that was quite interesting. Yep. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for this particular review. Stay tuned for next review, which is going to be a review of another physical trade plus some issues. Physical issues and some one-shots. But this, of course, is related to the Fantastic Four. Yep. See you next video. Bye.